Alma Angeles, and you're watching Eagle News International.
And I'm CJ here. Welcome to the program. And now on tonight's headlines.
U.S. President-elect Joe Biden takes the first steps towards moving into the White House in 73 days as Donald Trump again refuses to admit defeat and tries to sow doubt about the election results.
A victory for...
A vaccine jointly developed by Pfizer and BioNTech was 90% effective in preventing COVID-19 infections in ongoing phase 3 trials.
And tropical depression Ulysses has now intensified into a tropical storm as it approaches the country's landmass, according to Pagasa.
And Tropical Storm Eta made landfall at the Florida Keys late Sunday and was set to bring hurricane conditions after slamming Cuba and earlier cutting a deadly path through Central America and southern Mexico.
U.S. President-elect Joe Biden took the first steps towards moving into the White House in more than 70 days as Donald Trump again refuses to admit defeat and tries to sow doubt about the election results. Let's listen in.
Folks, the people of this nation have spoken. They've delivered us a clear victory, a convincing victory, a victory for we the people. We've won with the most votes ever cast on a presidential ticket in the history of the nation, 74 million. I sought this office to restore the soul of America, to rebuild the backbone of this nation, the middle class, and to make America respected around the world again. It's time to put away the harsh rhetoric, lower the temperature, see each other again, listen to each other again. And to make progress, we have to stop treating our opponents as our enemies. They are not our enemies. They are Americans. They are Americans. I pledge to be a president who seeks not to divide, but unify. Who doesn't see red states and blue states, only sees the United States.
But while I may be the first woman in this office, I will not be the last.
With congratulations pouring in from world leaders and supporters nursing hangovers after a night of celebrations, Biden and Vice President-elect Kamala Harris announced that they would receive a joint briefing Monday in Wilmington, Delaware from their Transition COVID-19 Advisory Team. Biden would then deliver remarks on coronavirus and economic recovery. They also launched a transition website, buildbackerbetter.com or buildbackbetter.com, and a Twitter feed at Transition46. Meanwhile, Mr. Trump played golf at his course near Washington, the same place where he was Saturday when news broke that Mr. Biden had secured enough electoral college votes for victory. Since when does the lamestream media call who our next president will be? Trump complained in a tweet on Sunday. Now, Mr. Trump plans to file a string of lawsuits in the coming week, according to his lawyer, Rudy Giuliani, who said he had a lot of evidence of fraud. But former President George W. Bush said the outcome is clear and added that he had called President-elect Biden and Harris to extend his congratulations. Bush said in a statement that the American people can have confidence that this election was fundamentally fair. He said we must come together for the sake of our families and neighbors and for our nation and its future. Mr. Biden's transition website lists 4 priorities: COVID-19, economic recovery, racial equity, and climate change. Mr. Biden, who turned 78 on November 20, will be the oldest person ever elected to the White House. Harris, meanwhile, 56, a senator from California, is the first woman, first black person, and first South Asian person to be elected vice president.
World leaders rushed to congratulate U.S. President-elect Joe Biden, with many expressing hopes of cooperation in facing future challenges following 4 volatile years of diplomacy with Donald Trump. Congratulations, said Chancellor Angela Merkel. She says, "I wish luck and success from the bottom of my heart." She also adds, "Our transatlantic friendship is irreplaceable if we want to overcome the great challenges of our times," she said in a tweet issued by a government spokesman. French President Emmanuel Macron tweeted, "The Americans have chosen their president. Congratulations at Joe Biden and at Kamala Harris. We have a lot to do to overcome today's challenges. Let's work together." Meanwhile, British Prime Minister Boris Johnson congratulated Biden on his election as President of the United States and Kamala Harris on her historic achievement. Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, a close Trump ally, called Biden a great friend of Israel, congratulating him and Harris on their victory. He tweeted, "I look forward to working with you, or with both of you, to further strengthen the special alliance between the U.S. and Israel." In a tweet, the President of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, says she's looking forward to working with President-elect Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. New Zealand Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern, a popular leader who had verbally jousted with Trump, congratulated Biden and Harris in a tweet focused on cooperation. She says, "With so many issues facing the international community, your message of unity is one we share. New Zealand looks forward to working with you both."
Meanwhile, China declined Monday to congratulate Joe Biden as the winner of the U.S. presidential election, saying the outcome of the vote was still to be determined. China, among a handful of major countries, including Russia and Mexico, that has not congratulated the president-elect, said Monday it had noticed that Mr. Biden declared he is the winner of the election. Take a look.
第一个问题，我们注意到，拜登先生呢已经宣布成功当选。我们理解，大选的结果会按照美国的法律和程序作出确定。中方在有关问题上的立场是一贯和明确的，维护国家主权、安全、发展利益的决心坚定不移。我们历来主张，中美双方应该在相互尊重、互不干涉内政的基础上，管控存在的分歧，推动中美关系实现健康稳定发展。希望美国新一届政府同中方相向而行。
While incumbent Donald Trump has yet to concede and has launched several legal challenges, many world leaders congratulated Biden and running mate Kamala Harris after the Democrats were declared winners at the weekend, and spontaneous celebrations erupted across American cities. Mr. Trump's 4 years in the White House have been marked by a costly trade war and increasingly icy relations with China, with the two powers sparring over areas from blame for the COVID-19 pandemic to Beijing's human rights record in Xinjiang and Hong Kong. Mr. Biden, though, indicated earlier in his campaign that he would largely continue Donald Trump's hard-nosed view of China, describing Communist Party leader Xi Jinping as a thug and vowing to lead an international campaign to pressure, isolate, and punish China. But on some issues, such as Mr. Trump's tariffs on China, Mr. Biden has indicated he may change tack, with aides saying he'd consult with allies for collective leverage.
U.S. President-elect Joe Biden is likely to be much tougher than Trump on issues like China's treatment of its Uyghur Muslim minority, says Ivan Resnick, an expert in U.S. foreign policy and international relations at the Nanyang Technological University in Singapore. Let's watch this.
I think that this president will probably pursue a policy that looks a lot like the one that was implemented when he was vice president to Barack Obama, something that looks a lot more like a whole of government reorientation towards the Asia Pacific, in a manner that will probably make the Chinese quite nervous. I think it's almost certain that Biden will be much tougher than Trump on issues like human rights, on China's treatment of its Uyghur the Muslim minority, than Trump was. I don't think it would be hard to be tougher than Trump on the issue of Xinjiang. But I think that the Chinese government will be under a lot more pressure on human rights issues. The relationship is going to get increasingly competitive, irrespective of who's leading both countries. The question is whether the leadership at the top can exercise some control over historical events and can behave reasonably and pragmatically. I'm much more confident that a Biden administration would be able to do that than a Trump administration. So there is a lot of pro-American sentiment in Northeast and in Southeast Asia. So the U.S. has a lot of capital to draw on. Trump did everything he could to try and sort of undermine those very healthy relationships, which was counterproductive. But those relationships have withstood even 4 years of Donald Trump, I think. So I think the U.S. has a reservoir of goodwill. Saudi Arabia, almost all world leaders will be really excited to see the United States back in the game, being back as a normal, liberal, leading great power that actually treats its friends well and its enemies with suspicion, with skepticism, rather than vice versa.
Meanwhile, Mr. Sam Fullwood III, a fellow at the Center for Congressional and Presidential Studies at American University, said that Mr. Donald Trump has no standing to challenge the result of the U.S. presidential election in court after he lost to Democrat Joe Biden. He was also asked on whether U.S. President-elect Joe Biden can unite the nation. Let's listen in.
America is so corrupt that he could not have gotten a fair shake in this. And in a democracy with all of those different fracture points, it becomes very, very difficult for an individual, particularly a president, over the course of one term, to be able to bind all of those different fractures. I hope that President-elect Biden is able to do that. I don't know how optimistic I am that it's going to be easy. He admits that it's not going to be easy. Later, we have Joe Biden picking an African-American woman and to make history on his own in the vice president slot. That is remarkable. That is probably the most remarkable thing about this election. It is a sign of how America can change. There are two ways of looking at this. One is that he is seeking to sow disinformation to make at least his supporters believe that he's fighting to win, which they like that fighting spirit, or to make his supporters believe that America is so corrupt that he could not have gotten a fair shake in this. The other thing that could be is that he lives in a fantasy world of his own making, and that he just has to find enough space in his mind to accept the reality. Think back. There is no basis on which he has standing to go to court. What he is going to allege in court documents, we'll have to wait and see what that is. I can't even fabricate what kind of an argument that would be credible that he could take to a court. So having said that, I can't imagine that anything that he would bring about would have any success in court.
Russian President Vladimir Putin is waiting for official results from the U.S. presidential election before congratulating a winner, the Kremlin said. Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov told reporters, quote, "We consider it correct to wait for the official results to be finalized. I want to remind you that President Putin repeatedly said he will respect the choice of the American people." Many world leaders congratulated President-elect Joe Biden after he took an insurmountable lead over Donald Trump in the vote count. When Trump won in the 2016 presidential election over Hillary Clinton, President Putin congratulated him within roughly an hour. Mr. Peskov said that this election was different because of the legal challenges that Trump, who has refused to concede defeat, is planning to mount over the vote. Peskov said the difference is quite obvious. Then there were no announcements of legal challenges. He added that Moscow was ready to work with whoever is declared the winner of the U.S. vote.
Meanwhile, our EBC correspondent Elle Aguilar and her crew were able to get some reactions from voters sharing their hopes and expectations from the new U.S. administration. Elle?
After days of exhausting consequential presidential election, Democrat Joe Biden is declared the 46th President of the United States. Biden took the stage Saturday night in his hometown, Wilmington, Delaware, and vowed to unify the country. Biden, who secured more than 270 electoral votes needed to win the presidency, also said that he sought the office to restore the soul of America, to rebuild the backbone of the nation, to make America respected around the world again. Reports say the president-elect hinted that he would build his administration quickly, focusing on the pandemic. Some analysts say there is no indication whether President Donald Trump will cooperate. Trump refuses to concede, threatening to pursue legal action on ballot counting. Meantime, Biden supporters have expressed their hope and expectations to the new president of the United States. Let's take a listen.
My expectations are we're going to get COVID under control. We're not going to have 100,000 cases of COVID a day like we are now. We're going to get the economy going. We're going to take care of people, and we're going to build the best country ever in history.
I'm just hoping that the country becomes unified again and we can all come back together as one people and one country. Exactly.
I would like for things to be addressed with COVID, of course. We've lost way too many people, so COVID needs to be addressed. You know, unity needs to be addressed. Racism needs to be addressed. You know, equality needs to be addressed. Inclusion for women needs to be addressed. Our world is definitely headed in the right direction with Biden in.
I would expect that Biden will address this pandemic. I find it appalling that the numbers, here we are in November, and the numbers are up 100,000, 110,000, 120,000, like it's climbing. And I'm like, I was looking at the per capita. We're one of the highest per capita countries in the world. Like, and we are one of the richest countries in the world. Like, it shouldn't be that way. So my first thought is control the pandemic. The second part is, all right, once we get that under control, maybe come up with a federal policy to address, like everybody wear masks, everybody stay at home, whatever it is. Then we work on the economy. I know that was the number one concern for my fellow citizens, and so I think it should be addressed. My other thought is, like, doesn't do you much good if you're dead from COVID if the economy's good. So my first thought is make COVID, take care of COVID, then we take care of the economy.
My real hopes are that I can get some rest. To tell you the truth, I haven't slept well at all, and every day it seems like I worry about what's going to happen next. What did he say this time? What did he say that time? And I feel like I can have some peace. It may not come for a little bit, but my hopes are that, again, I think the key thing is that we reach out to our allies again. We've lost a lot of people around the world, and I hope that we can work as a country and a nation with others as well as within our own United States.
My expectations are that it will not be easy. That the first thing we need to do is get a grip on this COVID so I don't have to talk through a mask. I work in education, and my hope for the future for the children of this country is that we will again be healed and move forward in the direction that we came at the end of 2016.
From Wilmington, Delaware, Elle Aguilar, Eagle News. We live in interesting times.
Meanwhile, a first-time voter in Las Vegas describes his experience and shares his hope for the coming U.S. leadership. Anna Cui is at the scene.
All right, so Mario, tell us, how was your voting experience here today?
It was actually easier than I thought. It was faster than I thought. It's not as busy as I thought it was going to be.
And is this your, I think you mentioned this is your first time?
This is my first time voting. I feel like this election is extremely important, more important, I feel, than the rest of the elections that I could have voted for. But yeah, this is very important. There's a lot going on right now, you know, so yeah, this is very important.
What are some of the issues that's really important to you?
The safety of our people, the safety of the country, you know. That's most important to me. My mom, my brothers and sisters, my nieces and nephews, what they're going to go through in the future. This election is hopefully going to set up for a better future.
Awesome. Now, can you tell us, because earlier we heard of some technical issues that some of the polling sites were having. Did you see any of that?
Nothing. Nothing. It was very simple, very easy. I actually registered today. So with me registering today and voting, it was, like I said, it was easier than I thought it was going to be.
Wait, how long did you have to wait?
I probably waited maybe about 35, maybe 40 minutes total with registering, voting, and then waiting in the line.
What are your hopes for this election?
My hopes for this election is peace. I really hope that regardless of who wins, it's a peaceful outcome.
And Eva Basilyaje from our ABC Los Angeles Bureau shares these reactions from the Filipino voters there. Let's take a look.
I am genuinely so excited that Joe Biden has won the presidency, because not only does he have executive orders ready and waiting for January 21st when he is inaugurated, but he also has plans to rejoin the Paris Climate Accord and also the World Health Organization. And after this last year of dealing with COVID, I think that we definitely deserve a president who cares about both his supporters and his non-supporters, and someone who cares about reuniting the American people.
Although I believe that Joe and Kamala are not the most perfect candidates for the presidency and vice presidency, Donald Trump's rhetoric has truly empowered and emboldened sentiments of anti-immigration, anti-feminist, anti-POC, and anti-science, amongst other problematic views that have truly been detrimental to populations of people throughout the world. Moving forward, I hope that people recognize that voting is not the only way to mobilize and advocate for marginalized communities. I ask whoever's watching this that there's still a lot of work to be done. Join our grassroots organizations and to keep fighting.
Because of those programs that I really believe he's concerned about the health of the people, not only here in California, but how to do it throughout the whole world. For concerning the environment, yes, I believe that he will do, because as of now, that the environmental program that will help my people, my children, not only the people again of California, the whole wide world. Again, about the racism. Fight for that. That there is no color, there is no race, but should be divided, should be equally treated.
In rural Pennsylvania, Trump supporters say they won't believe Joe Biden won the election until it's certified, with some admitting being upset at the results and recognizing they may just have to let it go. Let's watch this.
I'm not accepting him as president until it's certified. And just let me say this. If we, first of all, as you know, we had Democrat poll watchers that watched every ballot in our elections here in the county. Every ballot. Yet we weren't allowed to do that in Philadelphia as Republicans. He's got 70 million people who got his back, and we don't want a concession speech until we know that every legal vote was counted and we feel good about it and there's no corruption. And if there is corruption, people need to go to jail. And Mr. Biden, come clean on your relationship with the Communist Chinese Party now.
I still don't believe that he's won until they actually maybe do a recount. They need to take care of some loose ends first. But I was upset. He's not my guy. Donald Trump is my guy. It is what it is. There's nothing else we'll be able to do. If he files lawsuits and they find that everything was legal, then you just have to let it go. I mean, that's what you have to do. Just
pray for our president. Promise of every last
The Trump campaign has mounted legal challenges to the results in several states, but no evidence has emerged of any widespread irregularities that would affect the results. Rudy Giuliani told the Fox News show Sunday Morning Futures that Trump's team would file a lawsuit in Pennsylvania on Monday against officials for violating civil rights, for conducting an unfair election, and for violating the law of the state. Giuliani said the first lawsuit will be Pennsylvania. The second will either be Michigan or Georgia. And over the course of the week, we should get it all pulled together, he said. First Lady Melania Trump also chipped in Sunday, tweeting, "The American people deserve fair elections. Every legal, not illegal, vote should be counted." Top campaign aides signaled they will fight as long as the president wants to, even as the reality of defeat dawns upon them.
Eagle News, we'll be right back.
This portion is brought to you by RJK Services Manpower Agency Corporation.
Mula noon hanggang ngayon, gabay natin ang MTRCB ratings sa matalino at responsableng panonood. Sa tamang pagsunod sa MTRCB ratings, ginagawa nating ligtas at makabuluhan ang panonood ng bawat miyembro ng pamilyang Pilipino. Lumipas man ang panahon, hanggang may pamilyang Pilipino, andyan ang MTRCB.
Tropical Depression Ulysses has now intensified into a tropical storm as it approaches the country's landmass, according to the Weather Bureau Monday afternoon. In its 5 p.m. bulletin, Pagasa said Ulysses was last tracked 575 kilometers east of Borongan City, eastern Samar, moving northwestward at 15 kilometers per hour. It's now packing maximum sustained winds of 65 kilometers per hour near the center and gustiness of up to 80 kph. The trough of Ulysses will cause light to moderate with at times heavy rains over eastern Visayas, Bicol region, and the province of Quezon, it added. Now, the tail end of a cold front, on the other hand, will cause moderate to heavy rains over Cagayan Valley, including Babuyan Island, Sapayao, and Ilocos Norte. Flooding, rain-induced landslides, and sediment-laden stream flows may occur during heavy or prolonged rainfall, especially in areas highly susceptible to these hazards or those that receive significant rainfall from tropical cyclones. In a thunderstorm advisory issued at 4:08 this afternoon, Pagasa said moderate to heavy rain showers, lightning, and strong winds are likely over Metro Manila, Bulacan, and Batangas and within the next. And that was the last 2 hours. Meanwhile, no tropical cyclone wind signal has been raised yet on any part of the country, but Pagasa said tropical signal number 1 may be hoisted over some localities in Bicol region or eastern Visayas Monday night or early Tuesday. Pagasa also forecast Ulysses to reach typhoon category on Wednesday before barreling towards the Bicol region, Quezon area on Thursday.
Tropical Storm Eta made landfall at the Florida Keys late Sunday and was set to bring hurricane conditions after slamming Cuba and earlier cutting a deadly path through Central America and southern Mexico. The U.S. National Hurricane Center warned that Eta was bringing strong winds and heavy rains and a dangerous storm surge over portions of southern Florida and Florida Keys. Eta made landfall at 11 p.m. local time in Lower Matecumbe Key in Florida Keys. The NHC said adding the strong tropical storm was blowing maximum sustained winds of 65 miles per hour. A tropical storm is considered a hurricane when it hits wind speeds of 74 miles per hour. A hurricane warning and storm surge warning were in effect for the Florida Keys, and a storm surge watch, which is of a slightly lower urgency, was in effect for the state's southern coast.
Meanwhile, during the Rikoshi no Rei ceremony at the Imperial Palace in Tokyo, Japanese Emperor Naruhito officially proclaimed Prince Akishino first in the order of succession to the chrysanthemum throne. This traditional ceremony, which was due to take place in April last year, had been postponed due to the coronavirus pandemic. The day-long ceremonies took place at the royal residence, the Imperial Palace in Tokyo. Apart from the Emperor and Empress, numerous other members of the royal family attended the ceremonies, as well as Prime Minister Yoshihide Suga and representatives from foreign embassies. Akishino, 54, is one of just 3 heirs to the throne, along with Hisahito, 14, and Prince Hitachi, 84, the younger brother of Emperor Emeritus Akihito, who stepped down last year in Japan's first abdication in 2 centuries.
Secretary Menardo Guevara said he is not discounting the possibility of holding prison officials liable following Monday morning's incidents of violence between prison gangs inside the New Bilibid prison maximum security compound in Muntinlupa City. In a message to newsmen on Monday, Guevara expressed concern over the latest affray, a repeat of a previous riot involving gang members. Just as Guevara said, the Bureau of Corrections, Special or Security Force, PNP SAF, or the Philippine National Police Special Action Force, and the Philippine National Capital Region Police Office Special Weapons and Tactics are conducting clearing operations. The DOJ has ordered the Bucor to submit a detailed report as soon as possible. The DOJ chief said he will also direct the National Bureau of Investigation to conduct a parallel investigation or expand its ongoing probe into the previous violence. 3 were confirmed dead, while 64 were wounded in the brawl that erupted at around 8:39 a.m. on Monday. The incident occurred exactly a month after 7 members of the Sputnik gang and 2 from the Commando gang were killed in the clash inside the east quadrant of the NBP's maximum security compound from 2:30 a.m. to 4 a.m. on October 9.
In other news, Armenia said on Monday that fighting was continuing for the key town of Shusha in Nagorno-Karabakh, a day after Azerbaijan claimed to have captured it from Armenian separatist forces. Azerbaijani President Ilham Aliyev announced on Sunday his forces had taken Shusha, known to Armenians as Shushi, a strategically vital town that is the 2nd largest in the disputed region. Armenian officials denied the claim and said clashes in the area were ongoing. The capture of Shusha would be a major victory for Azerbaijan 6 weeks after new fighting erupted over Nagorno-Karabakh, an ethnic Armenian enclave that broke away from Azerbaijan's control in the 1990s. New clashes broke out in late September between Azerbaijan and the separatists over Karabakh, which declared independence nearly 30 years ago. But that declaration has not been recognized internationally, even by Armenia, and it remains a part of Azerbaijan under international law.
Thai police on Sunday fired water cannon on pro-democracy protesters who were trying to march to the royal palace to deliver letters demanding reform to the unassailable monarchy. Student-led rallies have rocked the kingdom since July, with protesters calling for the removal of Premier Prayut Chan-o-cha, a former army chief who came into power through a 2014 coup, and a rewrite to the military-scripted constitution. The boldest in the leaderless movement have also demanded reforms to the monarchy, a once taboo issue, sending shockwaves through Thailand's royalist establishment. On Sunday, nearly 7,000 protesters, a police estimate, attempted to march from Bangkok's historic democracy monument to the Grand Palace to deliver letters to King Maha Vajiralongkorn, with security forces calling for them to stop. As the marchers got closer, police briefly fired water cannon at them. The protesters reacted angrily, shouting, "Why did you use water cannons against us?" Authorities had warned earlier in the day that protesters were banned from breaching a 150-meter radius around the palace, and some 9,000 officials were deployed. Police defended their brief use of water cannon late Sunday night, saying it was just a warning. We have more updates for you. Please don't go away.
This portion is brought to you by Canreef Corporation, your ventilation and air conditioning specialist. Services offered: supply and installation of elevators, escalators, air conditioners, ventilators, jet towel hand dryers, generators, access control system, factory automation and modernization. For more info, please contact Ami Kanke at 0915-263-7198 or 0998-900-3224.
Now, on to the coronavirus situation around the world. The virus has claimed at least 1,251,980 lives worldwide since it first emerged in China late last year, according to a Johns Hopkins tracker. Based on the tracker, okay, take a look. More than 50,010,400 cases have been registered across the globe. Europe, with 12.6 million cases and more than 305,700 deaths, is once again the epicenter of the pandemic. After Europe, the regions most affected are Latin America and the Caribbean, with 11.6 million cases and 411,700 deaths. Asia, with 11 million cases and 176,600 deaths, and the United States and Canada with 10.1 million infections and 247,600 fatalities.
The global tally of people infected by the coronavirus shot past 50 million on Monday as United States President-elect Joe Biden geared up to name the scientists who will lead the country's response to its disastrous outbreak. The incoming leader made the pledge in his first speech since being projected as the winner of the presidential election, signaling he plans to prioritize the pandemic from the outset. Watch this.
Our work begins with getting COVID under control. We cannot repair the economy, restore our vitality, or relish life's most precious moments, hugging our grandchildren, our children, our birthdays, weddings, graduations, all the moments that matter most to us until we get it under control. On Monday, I will name a group of leading scientists and experts as transition advisors to help take the Biden-Harris COVID plan and convert it into an action blueprint that will start on January the 20th, 2021.
The Democrat is set to announce a 12-member task force on Monday to deal with COVID-19 that will be led by former Surgeon General Dr. Vivek Murthy and former Food and Drug Administration Commissioner David Kessler. The coronavirus task force will be charged with developing a blueprint for containing the disease once Biden takes office in January. According to a Johns Hopkins University tracker, the number of cases in the U.S. is nearing 10 million and shows no sign of slowing, despite Mr. Trump's claim the world's biggest economy is rounding the corner. The U.S. performed about 10.5 million coronavirus tests in the first 7 days of November, of which 6.22% came back positive, compared with 6.17% in the previous 7 days, according to data from the COVID Tracking Project, a volunteer-run effort to track the outbreak. The World Health Organization recommends the test positivity rate from a comprehensive testing program should be at or below 5% for at least 14 days before a region can relax restrictions or begin reopening.
And the raging pandemic, which first emerged in central China almost a year ago, did not deter voters in Myanmar, where excited crowds bunched together in their eagerness to cast their ballots. Take a look. Leader Aung San Suu Kyi's ruling National League for Democracy said Monday it was confident of winning a landslide victory in Myanmar as official results trickled in following the weekend's coronavirus-disrupted election. Hundreds of diehard supporters ignored warnings and gathered in a premature celebration, dancing, singing, and waving flags outside the Yangon headquarters of Suu Kyi's National League for Democracy. Cases of the coronavirus in Myanmar have spiraled upwards in recent months, sending swaths of the country into lockdown and forcing campaigns online where hate speech between rival factions has festered. But Suu Kyi refused to postpone the polls, a decision that could see serious public health ramifications, the International Crisis Group watchdog said.
Meanwhile, Director General of the World Health Organization, Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus, has spoken and congratulated U.S. President-elect Joe Biden and his running mate Kamala Harris on their victory in the presidential election. Watch this.
Congratulate President-elect Joe Biden and Vice President-elect Kamala Harris, and we look forward to working with his administration very closely. We need to reimagine leadership built on mutual trust and mutual accountability to end the pandemic and address the fundamental inequalities that lie at the root of so many of the world's problems. We might be tired of COVID-19, but it's not tired of us. Yes, it preys on those in weaker health, but it preys on other weaknesses too. Inequality, division, denial, wishful thinking, and willful ignorance. We cannot negotiate with it, nor close our eyes and hope it goes away. This will not be the last global health crisis. When the next one arrives, will the headlines be the same? Will they say that after the COVID-19 pandemic, the world wrung its hands, wrote reports, and changed nothing? Or will they say that COVID-19 was a turning point for global health security and for global health?
Dira-t-on que la COVID-19 aurait été un tournant?
This is our opportunity to write that story now.
Il dépend de nous aujourd'hui.
A vaccine jointly developed by Pfizer and BioNTech was 90% effective in preventing COVID-19 infections in ongoing phase 3 trials, the companies announced today. Protection in patients was achieved 7 days after the second of 2 doses and 28 days after the first, according to preliminary findings. Pfizer Chairman and CEO Albert Bourla said in a statement, quote, "The first set of results from our phase 3 COVID-19 vaccine trial provides the initial evidence of our vaccine's ability to prevent COVID-19. We are a significant step closer to providing people around the world with a much-needed breakthrough to help bring an end to this global health crisis," unquote. Based on supply projections, the company said they expect to supply up to 50 million vaccine doses globally in 2020 and up to 1.3 billion doses in 2021.
Russia registered a record number of new coronavirus infections on Monday, with cases in Moscow surpassing a previous high set in May. The Kremlin has so far ruled out putting back into place sweeping restrictions that were lifted earlier this year, despite weeks of rising cases in Russia. An official coronavirus tally on Monday said new infections reached 21,798, nearly doubling the country's first wave record in May. Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov conceded that the steady growth in cases in Russia remained alarming, but noted that not all countries are in lockdown. Russia, the fifth worst hit country in the world after the United States, India, Brazil, and France, has recorded a total of 1,796,132 infections.
And on a lighter note, a moment of celebrity status to a local politician in Japan. Here's Dennis Liu for the details. Dennis?
Hello, Alma and CJ. Good evening to you and to all our televiewers. The victory of the newly elected American President Joe Biden has brought an unexpected moment to a local politician in Japan. Yutaka Umeda, 73, the mayor of Yamato, a small town in the southwestern of the country, has become an overnight internet sensation after it was noticed that the kanji characters used to write his name can also be pronounced Joe Biden. He reportedly had no idea that people had made the connection between his and Biden's name until his family told him he was trending on social media. I feel very close to him, a bewildered Umeda said. According to the Kyodo news agency, it feels as though I've also won the election. Kanji characters that originated in China often have several phonetic readings. The mayor's surname, Umeda, comprising of two characters meaning plum and field, can be read as ume and da, but also as bai. Pronounced B-U-Y and then D-E-N, Biden. The single character Joe for his given name Yutaka is more commonly pronounced as Joe, J-O. Mayor Umeda said he hoped his association with the U.S. president-elect would bring his town, with a population of about 15,000. Umeda said he had received tongue-in-cheek messages congratulating him on Biden's election. Although there is a huge difference between the job of the U.S. president and mine, as the mayor of Yamato said, our passion is the same. Japan's Prime Minister Yoshihide Suga was among the first world leaders to congratulate the American President, Joe Biden. Alma?
All right. Thank you very much for that news, and we hope you get to interview him soon. Thank you very much, Dennis.
Thank you very much, Alma. Reporting live from Tokyo, Japan, this is Dennis Liu. We live in interesting times.
Interesting news indeed. Well, we're still in Japan. A gymnastics competition provides a glimpse of what the delayed Tokyo Olympics may look like next summer as fans attend the country's first international sporting competition since the shutdown. Watch this.
オリンピックができないんじゃないかっていう思いが 80% 以上超えてるっていうのが非常に残念だというかしょうがないのかなと思うんですけど、できないじゃなくてどうやったらできるかを、皆さんで考えて
We need the Olympic values of excellence, respect, and especially friendship and solidarity more than ever. This is why this friendship and solidarity competition comes at a perfect time.
やっぱり感染症対策がちゃんとできているのかどうか、それから一番危惧しているのはこれがうまくいかないと、来年のオリンピックかなり難しいんじゃないかというふうに思ってますので。
もちろんオリンピックにやってもらいたいし、FIG の渡辺会長が頑張ってらっしゃるので、ぜひ応援に来ました。
The International Olympic Committee and the Japanese government previously agreed to a one-year delay of the Tokyo Olympics to next summer because of the pandemic. Some medical experts have voiced skepticism about whether the massive international gathering can be held safely in a pandemic without a vaccine. For the Tokyo Gymnastics event, the athletes had gone through strict sanitation rules to shield themselves from the coronavirus with at least 2 weeks of isolation before flying to Japan. Once in Tokyo, they were immediately placed under strict biosecure protocols, restricted to designated floors of their hotel, and could only leave to take assigned buses to practice and competition venues. The Gymnastics Friendship and Solidarity competition gathers around 30 athletes from Japan, China, Russia, and the U.S. to compete in tightly controlled biosecure conditions.
And finally, in our news, American sports stars celebrated Joe Biden's victory on Saturday, saying the election of the 46th president of the U.S. has restored their faith in democracy after 4 tumultuous years under Mr. Donald Trump. LeBron James, who has been critical of the president throughout his tenure, sent out a photoshopped image. You know, he had waiting in his drafts for months. Take a look. Now, 3 years ago, LeBron James called the president a bum after President Trump rescinded an invitation for the Warriors to visit the White House. Basketball Hall of Famer Magic Johnson, who has been part owner of a number of Los Angeles sports franchises, including the Los Angeles Dodgers and Los Angeles Lakers, said he was celebrating for the third time in the past few weeks. Meanwhile, World Cup soccer winner Megan Rapinoe, who has been an outspoken critic of Mr. Trump, thanked black women for helping to put Biden over the top.
And that's it for tonight's broadcast. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm CJ Hero. Please join us back